Okay, we're continuing with this book here, The Holy Grail of Wisdom Quotes by me, Pete Rogers. We're doing Epictetus. Epictetus was a Roman slave of Greek origin. He lived in Rome from 55 AD to 135 AD, and he was really a developer, really, of stoic philosophy. He had trained with some Greek philosophers, and he became very respected. Marcus Aurelius, who later wrote Meditations, learned a lot from Epictetus. Okay, even though he'd been a poor slave, and Marcus Aurelius was the big ruler of Rome, the emperor. Okay, a Stoic philosopher. Now, Bertrand Russell, in his History of Philosophy book, said there's an element of sour grapes in Stoicism. But Stoicism is a great thing because it teaches you how to make the most of a difficult condition. You know, Bertrand Russell was a rich aristocrat. It's easy to, to talk like that when you've got millions of dollars, you can do whatever you want, but the average person is poor and they're not really free. They got a lot of financial obligations, sometimes other familial obligations. It was said that his leg was broken. It's not exactly clear what happened, but maybe his master thought he had misbehaved when he was young. Okay, so here's some words of Epictetus. He said, "It is the act of an ill-instructed man to blame others for his own bad condition. It is the act of one who has begun to be instructed to lay the blame on himself. And it is the instruction, one of whose instruction is completed, neither to blame another nor himself." Now, I would disagree with that a little bit. It is true that sometimes people get screwed over and blocked by others, and you should be aware of what's happening. But it doesn't mean you could do anything about it. There's a lot of things that are just an accident of birth. For example, my mother's from Puerto Rico. Okay, Puerto Ricans have like zero power in the United States, and they're actually probably the most hated of all the Hispanic minorities. So that gives me no support in the world, none whatsoever. I was lucky that my mom was a great person, and all my Puerto Rican cousins live in Puerto Rico. So some people, if you're born into a good, powerful ethnic group in whatever country you're in, you'll get some support and help from that. So you have to deal with that as an individual. My father's from Ireland. And Ireland, the Irish people are considered the scum of Europe, okay? Everybody hates the Irish. And now everybody say, oh, I like the Irish. Bullshit, okay? What do you do to help the Irish people? They're being Jenna, you-know-what-sided, and no one is helping them. And they're going to be Jenna, you-know-what-sided, and there's nothing that anybody's going to do about it. And even the so-called, RFK, Mr. Health guy, what's he going to do? He's not going to do anything. He hasn't said a single word that I'm aware of. So nobody cares about them. You have to learn to judge things by how people behave, not by what they say, okay? If somebody allows that to happen to a country, that means they hate that country, okay? If somebody puts fluoride and aluminum in your water, that means they hate your guts. It doesn't mean they're trying to help your teeth. If that's what you think, that means you're stupid, okay? You have to learn how to think by what are the real consequences of behavior, okay? And one of the facts of life for most pros is you have to realize no one cares about you, no one's going to help you, no one's going to save you. So you need to learn as much as you can about your environment and try to do the best you can with it. But you also have to accept your fate that you're on your own, okay? If you think some doctor's going to come along with a magic pill that's going to save you, good luck. You better learn how to eat, exercise, and sleep. Okay, Epictetus continues. Try not to merely react in the moment. Pull back from the situation. Take a wider view. Compose yourself. Yeah, that's the sign of a smarter person. Something happens that they're unhappy about, they're disappointed about, they think is unfair, and you want to lash out and say, screw you, whatever. But that's not going to get you anywhere. Insulting people doesn't get you anywhere. It just pisses them off, makes them not like you, and maybe they'll do something else nasty to you. So usually the best thing to do when you get screwed over and mistreated, most of the time the best thing to do is just don't say anything and think about it for a while. And then later on come to terms with whatever's the best way to handle it. When you're with your family, you can have a back and forth repartee pretty fast, or with a friend. But a lot of times in life, you're going to get a bad deal on things, and you have to think about them and judge what to do. Because a lot of times throwing back an insult isn't the best thing to do. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it isn't. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. We carry the seeds of greatness within us, but we need an image as the point of focus in order that they may sprout. So what that means to me is whenever you want to achieve something in a new area, a lot of times it's very hard to figure out how could I possibly break into that new field, into that new subject. And usually the best thing to do is pick somebody who's great at it and just start studying them. How did this person become great at becoming a writer, become great at being a doctor, at becoming a nutrition expert, whatever it is, and just study them. Like when I was at Stanford, I was a lousy student at first. I'd never been an honor student in high school. I never took an honors class. But I found this one guy who was getting A pluses, and I just asked him, could you please help me? Could I study with you? I got to learn how to study. And I started hanging around with him. He was an A plus student. I became an A plus student. And all I did was ask him, how do you do it? And I just sort of imitated him. And that's a lot of times how you learn anything. You just imitate somebody's done it. Look at somebody who makes a great painting. They imitate the paintings of the masters. Then they can start putting their own personal touch on it. So that's a valuable thing. And you have to say for yourself, why can't I be great at something? And then you have to figure out how to start making progress. And it usually means intense effort every day for months and years, even decades before you get really good. So you have to accept being a lousy baby beginner for a long time. And that's kind of humiliating, but you have to accept it. Otherwise, you'll never get to the higher levels. Okay, Epictetus continues. Keep your attention focused entirely on what is truly your concern and be clear that what belongs to others is their business and none of yours. Yeah, you have to make your focus real narrow. And I actually think for a young person, it's good to be selfish. You have to be selfish because there's so much work that you need to do. You know, sometimes having a girlfriend can be bad for you. I didn't like being lonely, not having a girlfriend at Stanford, but gave me a lot more time to study that I wasn't with her, and I kind of needed that at that time. I wish I had redshirted. I was scared of my father when I was young, and I let him talk me into not redshirting. But I should have redshirted for wrestling. That would have been better. I would have been more educated. I would have had more opportunities. Anyways, have the wisdom to know what cannot be changed and the strength to change what can, and stick with your purpose. I actually think you should spend a lot of time thinking, what is the main purpose of my life? What is my main goals, my maybe 2 goals? And then just put all your energy into that. And don't worry too much about social media or being popular or all these other things, because a lot of that's real transient, versus if you commit to something that you think is good and you make progress towards that goal, that will make you happy. Okay, time spent with friends and family, that generates happiness. Having your own family, that generates happiness. But being a dilettante spread all over the place, that does not lead to long-term happiness. This alone, when he says sticking with your purpose, this alone will strengthen your will and give your life coherence. If you want to improve, you must accept being thought of as foolish and stupid. Yeah, you have to go through that humiliating phase of being a beginner for a prolonged amount of time, really. Even, when you go to intermediate phase, you're still largely perceived as a beginner. So it takes time. Okay, Epictetus continues. Inferior people blame others for their problems. Yeah, like say, everyone in my family is fat, it's genetic. Ordinary people blame themselves. Like say, I tried to lose weight, but I don't have the willpower. Superior people just solve problems. Yeah, they're more objective. They're not that emotional. Kind of like Kierkegaard said, you want to be subjective towards others, understand the context of why they behave and are what they are, but objective towards yourself. So the smart person just says, well, gee, there's skinny people all over the world. How did they do it? Why are some skinny, some aren't? I'll just copy the skinny ones. Okay? Epictetus, it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. And that's pretty much the scoop on conventional medicine. Regular doctors think they're trained in medicine. They've been told all their careers that allopathic is the standard of conventional medicine, of health. But in reality, allopathic medicine is a joke for the chronic Western diseases because they're almost all dietary. About 75% of them are due to diets and toxins. So if you don't know diet, you don't know nutrition and toxicology, then you don't know it. And if you don't know epidemiology, you have nothing to stir your curiosity to learn it. So you become a total ignoramus. And that's why I'm saying is, a nutrition, epidemiology, toxicology person who's only studied for 1 month knows more than the chief of internal medicine at an Ivy League school in terms of how to make people healthy. It's just a fact. Low-fat vegan diet cures hypertension, cures diabetes, cures coronary artery disease. If you catch the diabetes early enough and the heart disease early enough and the hypertension early enough, pills never cure dietary disease. Okay, Epictetus. Keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Yeah, you want to hang around with people that are also working towards the same goal as you or who you mutually benefit from talking to each other. There's something positive about them. Don't hang around people that want you to go to a bar and drink or do other stupid stuff and drag you down into their nonsense and purposeless, meaningless habits. In theory, it is easy to convince an ignorant person. In actual life, Men not only object to offer themselves to be convinced, but they hate the man who has convinced them. Yeah, that's the weird thing about being smart. And I've talked about this before. When I was young, I was a great athlete. Everybody liked me just because I was a great athlete. I didn't do anything with my personality. And then later on, when I became a great scholar, I find more and more people hate me, and it's kind of weird. You have to be real careful. It's strange, but somebody who tells the truth and is real smart, that makes you hated in the modern world, and you have to be real careful about it. Epictetus, if you wish to be a writer, then write. Okay. Like conventional medicine doesn't like geniuses, not at all. It's very nasty to them. Okay. You can't make progress facing both ways. Yeah, you have to pick something and commit to it. Otherwise, if you're half-assed in 5 different directions, you'll never achieve anything. Epictetus, first say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do. You become what you think about. Yeah, so you want to try to focus on achieving your goals. And for things that you think are bad or you're not happy about, avoid them as best you can. You can't always avoid the bad stuff, but avoid it as best you can. And you'll have to sometimes make deals and compromises. For example, I wanted to be a writer and a scholar, but I have to work because I need to make money to support my family, so I have to stay in conventional medicine because that pays a lot better than anything else. But on the other hand, I want time for my books and YouTube videos and all that stuff, and I really don't have a lot of time. So I almost make a deal, like with my ex-wife. Some people say, well, why did I stay with her? Well, and my sons will say to it too, she made it possible. She was like a landlord. She ran the house. She made sure I had a dinner every night. She didn't bug me very much, so I could write and I could write books and make videos, okay? And I didn't do much else, and I currently don't do much else. So what I'm trying to say is you have to kind of pick. You can't be all things, and the sooner you realize that and just focus on what matters and what you want to make your goal, the better chance you have to achieve in those areas. Epictetus, you become what you give attention to. You become what you think about. When we blather about trivial things, we ourselves become trivial, for our attention is taken up with trivialities. Yeah, so that's why you want to kind of be submerged. That's why I will never listen to beat music. I will avoid anything that I think is a waste of time, even if it makes people pissed off at me. If I think it's a waste of time, I won't go to a social event. I won't go to a religious event or other things if I think it's a waste of time. If there's a good reason to go, I will go. But I'm pretty selfish about my time because I have so little time. Epictetus, every difficulty in life presents us with an opportunity to turn inward and to invoke our own submerged inner resources. The trials we endure should introduce us to our strengths. Dig deeply. You possess strengths you might not realize you have. Find the right one and use it. Yeah, you become more strength, like Ramon Cajal had said, if you focus narrowly on a few things. And I think that's what you should do, because in the long run, that'll make you happier, being good at something that you care about. And it also makes you stronger, because there's always going to be people sort of hating on you, trying to push you down, giving you a hard time, wasting your time, throwing extra work in your path. So you have to kind of steel yourself to say, I shall focus on my goals and do my best to crank on those. I'll endure all the BS I have to endure because it's a requirement. There's not an easy way around that typically. And you can't do everything. You want to do everything, but you can't. So I like the Epictetus. And, Alexander Solzhenitsyn had said, Christianity and Stoicism are good for a person. They give you more mental, physical, emotional strength so you can try to be creative in whatever you want to be creative in or whatever you want to focus on. You want to help your kids, you want to coach your athletes if you're a coach, you're a teacher, you want to teach your students, whatever it might be. But you have to have a mental psychology and philosophy that enables you to be strong, because the world's always trying to beat you down and criticize you and weaken you. So you have to have this mental thing inside yourself that says, no, I'm better than that. I'm going to do good things. I'm going to be strong. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to be productive. So you have to have that inner strength. Otherwise, the world will just beat you down.